Welcome to Build Better. My name is Anna-Katrina Shedletsky. I'm CEO and one of the founders of Instrumental. This is a passion project for me because I feel like there aren't places for visionaries and leaders in our space to get together and actually talk about the strategy of how we push our industry forward. So we made one, and you can get to do that when you're a founder and kind of come up with odd ideas that don't exist in the world and make them happen. So a big thanks to everybody who's come today to share your expertise both on the main stage and with your peers as attendees. And I'm pretty excited to share my own vision for the next way. So we just got to see that great panel. This idea of the genealogy of modern NPI has been an interesting thing I've been thinking about for a while. And I've gotten the opportunity to work with many companies in their NPI processes and seen how the Motorola or the Apple or the Amazonian or the Google kind of elements and ways and evolutions of these methods have influenced those organizations. And I think there's really kind of three core themes that encapsulate those ways that are going to be part of the next way. The first is having really clear phase-gated process. This is primarily for NPI. This is your EVT, DVT, PVT, but in production as well, doing PRQs and control runs. Essentially just validate what you're going to do before you make a lot of it. And I think that process is an important part of it. We heard up here around Agile doesn't work for hardware. So if you're not going to do Agile, what are you going to do? You're going to have a phase-gated process of some kind. The second is global collaboration. We heard about that as well. Both Motorola and Apple and subsequently, these are global teams, whether they've had to make strategic decisions about what to keep in-house, what to go find external expertise for. And then the last one is execution at scale. I think that's something that Apple is really well known for, and it's an important part of the future as well, how we're going to build hardware in ways that we can actually execute the way we need to. And so in terms of these themes, what happens for the next way? Well, we heard from very clearly here from Zach about faster and speed, right? And when I talk to engineering leaders about what they're being pushed to do or what their leadership is pushing for, it's speed, it's faster. And we're not just talking like, hey, it'd be nice if you didn't delay, why don't we ship on time? It's not that. It's like, no, can you ship it twice as fast? Can we eliminate half of your line-to-line schedule? Can we go from an 18-month cycle to 12 to 9 to 6 to 4, maybe less than 4-month NPI from first prototype to production units running off the line in the phase-gated process? I'm not talking about shipping your EVT units here. And that's what we're seeing pressure in the market to do. And so the next way has to account for that. The second is there's this massive increase in complexity, operational complexity in the world we live in today in the post-pandemic period. And so adaptability is really important. And that can mean both being adaptable about where you're building, which vendors you're using, moving from one place to another place, not having all your eggs in one particular region or country, but also in the ways that organizations are changing how they think about what manufacturing models to use. And it's not all going in one direction. We see customers moving from JDM to CM, from CM to JDM, to ODM, to in-house, taking in-house and doing it with external partners in all these directions, trying to optimize for kind of key business priorities that are particular to their organization. And so the next way needs to accommodate that adaptability and be adaptable itself. And then the last one is, I started this company with Sam nearly a decade ago. And at the time, we would talk to manufacturing leaders and they'd be like, we're fine. We don't need technology. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. It's great. We're heroes. We'll just, hunker down and get it done. And now everybody's like, oh, I need all the tools. I need the AI tools. I need the big data tools. I need a database. I need this. And really, the industry's woken up. That's great. But really, it's not about technology and technology unlock. It's about creating unfair advantages within an organization for that organization relative to its competitors. So it's not really about like, we need AI. It's, I need AI that's going to leverage the IP of my organization and my super smart engineers to make something that our competitors cannot make at margins they cannot compete with, or at a price point or lead times they can't compete with. And they're looking at technology to provide an unfair advantage. So those are kind of the three themes I see as part of the next way: faster, adaptable, and creating unfair advantages. And certainly, it's not even like an elephant in the room anymore. AI underpins all of this, and has an impact and ability to impact all of these themes. And we now live in the AI age. When we started the decade, we might not have thought that way, but certainly now, about halfway through, starting to feel like, oh yeah, this is going to be the decade when we figure some of these things out. But AI needs really three things to get started and to be useful and to fulfill the vision. One is it needs compute. It needs the infrastructure to power that compute. And it needs distribution. So you might not have thought this before, but AI needs manufacturing. If we don't make that stuff, if we don't make the data centers and the power grids and design the products that deliver it, this revolution doesn't happen. AI needs manufacturing. In this room, there are executives leading teams building servers for massive compute farms that are getting built. They're designing those parts, they're implementing that, they're operationalizing that. They're a huge part of driving this. There's energy leaders in this room who are figuring out how they're going to power that while also making sure everybody else gets power. And then there's all the high volume folks in the room. You're going to be, if you're not already, working on the devices for consumers and businesses that deliver these AI innovations into our lives. And so AI needs manufacturing just as much as manufacturing needs AI. We're getting a little cut off there, but manufacturing needs AI. And we need it because even though we've now gotten to this point of feeling like technology unlock can happen, we're plagued by inefficient processes still, operational complexity, and massive scrap and waste. We're kind of boiled a little bit as frogs here on the amount of scrap and waste, but it's massive. And so if you kind of map that to the themes for my thoughts on the vision for the next way, you see it's pretty aligned along with making things faster, more adaptable, and creating unfair advantages for organizations. So when Sam and I started Instrumental nearly a decade ago, we had a vision, and the vision is the same. We wanted to build software that would enable optimization, autonomous optimization for electronics manufacturing. We both grew up during that time that Matt Hell was talking about at Apple, where we spent hundreds of days on the lines in China. And while we were there solving particularly thorny issues where you're the singular engineer, like ripping units apart, trying to get just one unit to work on the line, we were thinking about, man, like if we really just had data, that would really help. And if we had, but that vision continued. If we had data that we could then do smart things with, we could actually maybe augment the work that we're doing as engineers. And then eventually, maybe we could even automate some of the tasks that we're doing that are particularly low value or don't seem particularly valuable. And eventually, we could create software that would enable lines to be autonomous, to actually be self-healing, self-improving, whether that's process, design, the whole supply chain. And this vision that software could do all of those things if we just worked our way down this evolution. And so we thought about what is the thing that we need to work on to make that happen. And it's a very humble answer. It's failure analysis. And it's because we had this insight that failure analysis is really the core engine that drives optimization in any manufacturing process. If you think about a change you make to the line, it's probably because it was a corrective action from failures that you had. Or maybe experience that you've had from a prior corrective action when you've seen something go wrong. And so this process of discovering issues, identifying the root cause, identifying a corrective action is the engine that you do tens, hundreds, thousands of times per product, not just in MPI, but also in production, to get the manufacturing KPIs you care about to go in the direction you want. Improve your yield, throughput, product margins. And so if you can do this cycle faster, better, this creates an engine and a flywheel within an organization that can be massively impactful. And that is also the flywheel that will enable automation and eventually autonomy. So I'm really excited to share something new with you today. And a part of that vision realized, our team has been working on this for a long time, and we're going to be launching our next generation Solve AI. And this is all about speeding up that failure analysis process, leveraging technology to create unfair advantages within organizations to do so. And it's a way to run very fast and comprehensive failure analysis, whether you're doing that in MPI or in production. Today, the factories tagged me in this JIRA ticket for some power supplies that are getting way too hot in full load testing. Let's find the root cause. We're gonna click on these serial numbers right in the JIRA, brings you right to instrumental. All of my data is in one place. I'm gonna find my failing issue and run a correlation. And I can correlate to a lot of different data types. Sorry, it's a little blurry. Functional test data, information that you've uploaded, information that instrumental has produced from your visual data, like discoveries. And I can set up my correlation in seconds. Within a minute, the system will analyze hundreds of variables and it synthesizes its findings. It's highlighted both relationships it's eliminated and ones that are interesting. In this case, there is a likely correlated relationship. So let's take a look. And here it's showing that it's found that there's a correlation to the thermal paste fender, which makes a lot of sense for hot units. And so in just a couple of clicks, I'm pasting that information back in my JIRA ticket, and now I have an idea for a root cause for my problem. So engineers can now start with a nearly empty JIRA ticket, and in 90 seconds, look at 100 different potential root causes and find one, or maybe more than one, that are interesting that they can take action on right away. But that's not all. For the last 2 years, we've been working on a special superpower. When I speak with customers, they're often data rich and insight poor. It didn't used to be this way, but recently, in the last couple of years, data rich and insight poor. They suspect that they have valuable insights in their data if they could just figure out how to uncover them. And the conventional methods aren't cutting it. These are not the most simple kind of Pearson coefficient statistical relationships. They can do that stuff. They know that there's something in there if they could just get it. And so we built some superpowers for that. If you think about it from a failure analysis perspective, engineers really define kind of two different kinds of outcomes, I guess, from looking at visual data. The first is known defects, second is novel defects. So kind of the black and white perception of the world. Known defects we're all familiar with. You find those issues that's in your inspection protocol. You can set up automation to find those things. You can use instrumental for that. You can get conventional smart cameras for that. Lots of technology out there, very mature, to find things like this coax connector not being plugged in. Basic, obvious thing, yield protection stations so you don't find it later on. That's essentially, if this is a plot where each one of these dots is a unit, it's finding a cluster of outliers, and you set up either a rule in computer vision space or a machine learning space. You set up something here to essentially be able to find those units and fail them automatically. Novel defects are a little harder. It requires machine learning. That's why we built Instrumental Discover, a feature that we've had for many years, and we literally are continuing to invest in every single day because it's a core engine of what we do and failure analysis. And this is finding the defects that you did not know to anticipate. I don't even know what's wrong with that connector. I think it's got some weird burrs from its from the plugs manufacturing process, but you definitely don't want those burrs breaking off and migrating around your product and shorting things. That's like an outlier in your population, and Instrumental will find that stuff. But these are the easier things to find. The reality is, in your manufacturing process, and for a particular product, there are literally like millions of combinations of variations that can happen, and maybe only 5 or 6 of them actually matter in terms of how they affect your yield and your capability or in your CPK. And the hard part is figuring out which ones matter. And this is where this feeling that the information is there comes from. And the process of going and figuring out that any particular variation matters can be this long drawn-out process and often doesn't yield anything. But when it does yield something, it can be incredibly powerful. And so in this case, does it matter that sometimes my coax connector comes in at 6 o'clock and sometimes it comes in at 4:30? Don't know. But now Instrumental will be able to tell you if it matters. And so we're going to introduce a product called Deep Visual Correlations. This is a superpower for engineers. Deep Visual Correlations is powered by an AI that looks at all of your as-built image data and uses machine learning to identify any visual variation that predicts the failures you're seeing. So we're literally creating a model to predict, that's a predictive model of your failures based on that failure set. For my power supply example, we're going to go back to that one. Remember, they're getting too hot in full load testing. I want to know if the AI can find a reason in my visual data set, something that I could maybe control that would help me to reduce those failures and bring my capability in tighter and increase more margin in the design of my product. All right. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, so I'm going to ask the AI to look everywhere. It's a little blurry. Sorry for that. In a few minutes, the AI has produced some results. It looks like it's found a predictive correlation to the amount of thermal paste underneath one of the heat sinks. See this small? These are the good ones, and these are the bad ones. And so this is something that actually makes a lot of sense. I might have found it myself if I took them apart. I might not have. Lots of different variations could cause a problem. Here I can set up a monitor, which will actually intercept units with small amounts of paste on the line. I can put a comment to my teammate in the factory so that he knows if this test starts failing to recalibrate the paste machine. And then I can actually click on an example and kind of take this example information and export this straight to my QMS or my issue tracking software. So I've closed the loop on this, and I can mark the ticket as done. That's it. My issue's resolved. Super fast. I'm so excited about this release, and a lot of the team here today that worked on this release, doing this in time for this event. This will be available to customers very soon. Some customers as early as next week, pieces of this product. We're really excited about it. And we really think it's going to change how our customers build their products. Instead of spending weeks trying to figure out the variations that matter, trying to root cause really complex enigma problems, they can get there in minutes, whether they know what they're looking for or not. So I think that this product certainly aligns with the themes of the next way. Not only are we taking week-long processes and doing them hundreds, maybe faster, even faster than that, faster to eliminate and identify root cause, an important part of this engine. We make teams more adaptable because as they're moving to different vendors, they have multiple lines doing the same thing. They're able to actually figure out and control these variations, create margin within their product so that they can be more resistant to the fact that there's going to be variation in their supply chain. And we create an unfair advantage because this software literally builds models based on the IP our customers are putting into the system and produces value directly back only to them based on that data that provides a competitive advantage for them. If you can imagine being able to increase your yield by several percentage points or tighten up your capabilities so you just have a lot more margin, that will lead to core improvements in business KPIs and manufacturing KPIs like yield, throughput, et cetera. Makes you more competitive in the marketplace. So we've gathered you all here today to talk about the next way. And we've put this event on explicitly to get people talking about their own challenges and their own ideas for the next way. And as an executive myself, I know it can be really difficult to create space in your daily life to think about strategy. And so that could be an opportunity today, is to think about what your strategy is going to be for whatever you believe the next way to be in our industry. And how maybe if you agree it needs to be faster, trying to see what other opportunities there might be that you weren't aware of that could make it faster or more adaptable or create unfair advantages. I've worked really hard with the team to curate some great visionary speakers up here on the main stage, but we also want to emphasize that we have these kind of various sessions throughout the day to be able to network with each other. And I think that you will get just as much value from others as you will from what's happening on the main stage. We have demos, we have partners here in the broader ecosystem, bringing lots of different perspectives, and then we have some fun at the end of the day as well. And now maybe it's just me, because I'm an engineer, I fall into the stereotypes. I'm great on a stage, but like in a pool of people I don't know, it's a little nerve-wracking. And so one idea we had to try to get conversations going today is we've created this system of dots here. And so you saw dots on your way in. I don't know if people got a chance to pick out some dots, but the dots can be a potential conversation starter for the people that are here. Oh, you're interested in making things faster. What are you doing to do that? Or what is your challenge about? So we also have users, customer users, either former or current users in the audience. So if you're interested about instrumental and whether that should be part of your next way, talk to our users and customers. You can also talk to us, but you'll get different information from our users and customers. So I'm going to end this keynote in a pretty unorthodox way, in which I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself to the person next to you. Let's break the ice, and maybe talk about one of the dots you chose to put on your badge. And then in a few minutes, we'll get back together to do the next pitch. Thank you very much.